Welcome everybody, welcome all our Torah Anytime viewers. Tonight's topic is a topic. It is a topic, bless you, is a topic of extreme importance. First of all, it's a very, very mature topic. So being that in mind, we are going to be using mature yet clean words to try to express ourselves. And, when speaking about this topic, there are many people that will hear this and they'll most likely say, oh, what a fanatic. Is that crazy? How bad is it? Right? By the way, I'm sure everybody here knows we're talking about the topic of wasting seed. So they're like, oh, you crazy? What's the problem? You look at the medical, now it's healthy. It's supposed to be that. Generally speaking, and I'm not generalized, but I'm generally speaking on the generalization, those are the people that have issues with this sin. That's why they make such a big deal. It's not somebody who doesn't care about it. I'll give you an example. Somebody who smokes a lot of weed. You ask him, is weed bad for you? Absolutely not. It's the best thing, it gives you, it relaxes you. You ask somebody else who never touches a cigarette or that, is weed bad for you? He's like, oh my God, it's poison. So it depends. The more someone's involved in it, they'll go all crazy. I'll be like, no, there's nothing wrong with it. So people are going to start saying, this is not true. This is crazy. This guy's a fanatic. Might be true also. But in this aspect of it, I'm going to source everything. So not only I will tell you these things, you could source it, you could look up for it, you could also ask me afterwards if you want a particular thing. And what I'm saying, I'm not making anything up. I'm not trying to make something more severe than it is. I'm saying you as is according to the Torah. Rabbi Aaron Kotler said, that many people, they don't speak about this topic. Why? Because modesty. How do you speak about these things? It's supposed to be modest. This is what he says that people think. However, in a generation, he goes on, like ours, the severity of the impurity that goes on, that everything is exposed. Everybody speaks about everything in this generation. But the Torah people, no, we can't speak about things that are related to Kedusha, related to holiness. So, rather, Rabbi Aaron Kotler says that it's an absolute obligation to speak about these matters in public. The Kabbalist Rabbi Yaakov Abuchatera, his grandfather learned with Reb Chaim Vital, which was a student of the Arizal. His grandson was the Baba Sali. So you're talking about a big, strong line of Kabbalists that he says that all the terrible things that fall upon the Jewish people in the Parashat Bechukotai, it says a lot of curses. These all stem from sexual transgressions. And in fact, our sages said that the majority of man's suffering, either you could say disease, pestilence, war, poverty, famine, are all related to transgression of the Brit. That when we say the Brit, we're talking about the circumcision area. So, the halakha is in Shulchan Aruch that it is 100% forbidden to discharge semen in vain. And this is a graver sin than any of the other sins mentioned in the Torah. And there are many times that I've spoken in places where people are, coming closer to Judaism. And I'm just as a whim, I'll say, it just popped into my head, every so often, and be like, the severity of wasting seed. And they were like, wait, what's wasting seed? And be like, I'll explain what it is. Be like, wait, that's a problem? Nobody tells these things people in Judaism because nobody speaks about it. It's how are people supposed to know about it? Rather, you're supposed to speak about it. You're supposed to, prevent people from falling into these issues. It's very interesting because people don't speak about two things. For men, they don't speak about this. For women, they don't speak about modesty. The two things that they need to hear, that's why people don't speak about it. Why people like to be liked. No one likes to be, this guy's a fanatic, this guy's crazy. So it is important to speak about these things. I also pray to God that I will be able to present this information correctly, appropriately, and hopefully to help people prevent from this sin, not only for themselves, but also for others. The Peleo, it says like this. He says that, in his time, that it's quite common for young people to do this type of sin. And where does it come from? From the ignorance. People just don't know. Especially you live in an environment that it's not frowned upon, especially from the secular world, as it should be. So, there's no problem. So no one knows about it. And he says there's an obligation that people have to warn people about it. The severity, you want to hear his words and I'll quote it. The severity of this matter, you have to warn them until they tremble from fear. So get ready tonight to be trembling from fear. All right. There are a few speakers that actually speak about it. You have, for example, I have a close friend, Rabbi Yaron Ruven, who speaks about it. Rabbi Mizrahi speaks about it. There's not too many speakers I've found in English that speak about it. In Hebrew, you actually do find a lot. For Israelis, for people who speak Hebrew, you find a lot. But for some reason in the English-speaking world, it's spoken about, randomly places, but it's not as often as I think it should. I will let you know that last time I gave this class, it took me 6 hours. So I'm giving you, it was 2 Friday nights, 3 hours, one after another. So we're going to do we're going to have to give a lot of over information all that span of time. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says like this. He says that wasting seed is a sin from the Torah. Don't think of it like a rabbinical prohibition. It's like, like those people will be like, you can't do this. Well, Rabbi said I can't do it, or the Torah says I can't do it, as if it's going to make a difference. But this one, in particular, is 100% from the Torah. It's not. And the Gemara says Rav Moshe Feinstein, that if someone sins in this, you deserve death from heaven for this thing. And the halacha says that this is more severe than any of the other sins in the Torah. Hey guys, welcome. So, everybody in this, no problem. Everybody in this sin, in this test, they all have different levels. There are some people that they're like addicts to this. They can't stop. They're addicted to it, and it's a very big problem. Other people have the problem, but it's not as much severe. To everybody, according to their level, they need to go and they need to fight and they need to accomplish as much as they can in this. The Chazon Ish says that the main purpose of a person coming down to this world is to perfect matters of Kedusha. And the Shevet HaLevi says also that you could tell, the spiritual level of a person depends very strongly on the purity of his soul. And I know I've speaking to many people that, when did they grow? When did these people decide that they're going to have the ability to grow spiritually? When they break up with their girlfriends, when they break up with or if it's girls, when they break up with their boyfriends, that's when they have the ability to grow. And I've spoken to people here, especially people that go to Israel, for example. They go to Israel, they want to learn, but they have, they're there, they're free, they go and they hang out with girls and do that. How can you learn? How can you grow? How can you, especially if you're younger, you can't, it overtakes your entire life. 24/7, you're texting. You don't stop. And about what? I don't know, just emojis. Just like all day emojis. Thumbs up, thumbs down, peace, heart. Hopefully that's as far as it goes. But it's just a complete waste of time. But it also it holds you back from growing. And our generation has a stronger test than it was in previous generations. Because now you have the ability to look at all these pictures, all these things, without any, on your phone, in the privacy. You don't have to go on a, even if you want to go 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when everybody had to go on a computer if you actually wanted to, or you had to go out of the house. Here you go under your covers, you have no problem. As opposed to 30 years ago, where you even had to leave your house, you have to buy certain things, you have to go to certain places. So the Satan is making it very, very easy to sin. So it's becoming more and more difficult in our generation. However, says the Gemara in Yuma, page 39a, that if a person tries a little bit by himself, he gets help from heaven. So all you have to do is you have to start. You'll see you get elevated. The Midrash, Bamidbar Rabbah, says as follows. In chapter 15, verse 12. It says that God doesn't elevate a person. Anybody wants promotion in life? Anybody not want promotion in life? Everybody wants promotion in life. You want God to be like, hey God, throw me a bone, give me a promotion. God, it says in the Midrash, God doesn't give a promotion, doesn't elevate a person until first a person is tested. And he gives proofs, the Midrash. First by Abraham was tested with 10 tests, and then he got the blessing. What it says, Hashem gave, it says in Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 24, verse 1, that God blessed Abraham with everything. Where is this? After all the 10 tests. Yitzchak was harassed by Abimelech. After that, Vayizra Yitzchak ba'aretz ahi vayivarechu Hashem. And God blessed Yitzchak after this thing. Yaakov also, he was tested with Esav, with Lavan, with Dinah, with Yosef. And then after that, it says in Genesis chapter 35, verse 9, it says, and God blessed him after all these things. Yosef also, we see Yosef with Potiphar. He didn't get promoted to this viceroy until after he got tested with the wife of Potiphar. And we see this also in Genesis chapter 45, verse 4. It says, when Yosef saw his brothers, he told them, he says, Gishuna alai, come closer to me. And says Rashi, what did he say, come closer? He showed him his circumcision. What does that mean that he showed him the circumcision? Which means is that the brothers realized that now Yosef, he was the most powerful, most successful, most wealthiest person on the entire planet. And he's sitting over there, they're like, how did you get to there? Like, what's your secret of your success? What merit did you have to get you to that? So he showed them his Brit, saying that I guarded my Brit. I did not go and I did not do any pgam, any defect on my Brit, which means I guarded the whole sexual, purity, and therefore I merited to go and become the viceroy, the second, the most wealthiest man in that time. The Satan tries very, 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 very hard to make someone sin in this matter. And if he can't get you to sin intentionally, he'll try to get you to sin unintentionally. Because what happens is, the Midrash Tanchuma in Parshat Vayikra says, when someone sins unintentionally, you sort of open a opening that now the Satan can get you even intentionally. So sometimes people sin accidentally, intentionally. They'll be like, oh, whatever, it wasn't so bad. But if you don't do tshuva on that you just open the door for the Satan. So the Satan, imagine like you walk in the door and, the Mossad agent behind you, it's like, you open the door and then the Mossad agent just like slips in. And then you turn around, but there's like nothing there, and the door closed. But the Mossad agent is still inside. Like he's under your control now. You're under his control now. Better yet. So the same idea. You do a sin unintentionally. You open the door. The Satan comes in, and if you don't fix it, the Satan is able to get you intentionally as well. Now, let me share with you something from the Arizal. Arizal says something very scary in Sha'ar Kavanot. He says that each drop of semen, there is a soul that is brought into the world, and what happens is if this is brought in a forbidden union, it could be either through a forbidden union with another, with the opposite gender, or it could be just, forbidden union by just wasting seed by yourself. This causes all these life forces that are in there to be captured by the evil side. And what happens is now these souls that are captured, these kidnapped souls, they want to haunt the man that brought them into this, despicable state of impurity. So what they do is that they keep on trying to cause him trouble, the person that wasted his seed. And this could lead to, depression, poverty, marital strife, problems with your children, and a long, long list of other tragedies. Now think of it, through every, ejaculation, according to science, it's between 2 to 300 million sperms. Which just, if you think about that, the fact that you're here today, which means is, you're 1 in like 300 million. You are able to make it over here, which means is that you have the ability to overcome everything, especially this sin. If you think this sin is difficult, think about what you had to overcome and what did you have to accomplish in order to be here where you are today. So, think of it, you have, in every time that you see, you have millions upon millions of these souls that just want to attack you, damage you, and hurt you in all, any which way or form, which is why there in Israel they don't allow people. The general custom is, especially in Yerushalayim, that if a father gets buried over there, they don't allow the children in the cemetery. One of the reasons is because these children made it into the world, but there's a bunch of other children that didn't make it into the world. So the other children see the live children, and they get very, very much. I don't know what the right word is, but they want jealous. Yeah, jealous would be a good word, and they want to attack those ones. So for safety of those, they actually keep them out, and that's the custom. They don't even, the children, the sons, don't come into the burial with where their father is buried. So besides that, all these these demonic beings, they also cause one to have nocturnal emissions, wet dreams as well. The Kaf HaChaim says also that from all the sins in the Torah, none of them create demons like the sin of wasting seed. Like, this is like the top of the line. And not like, there's some people, and I gave the demons class, they're like, oh yeah, well, that's cool, where are the demons? I want to talk to them. They're not like your buddies that you could do stuff and be like, hey, listen, get me a Coke, I'm like, they're there to hurt you, to harm you, they damage you. They're called mazikim, they're damagers. That is their name. Their name is damagers. So it's not something that you would want. And this is one of the things that causes the most in the Kabbalistic sense to come to bring bad influence to you. The Zohar says like this also. It says something crazy, that after this despicable act, it says on each and every hair on the person's face there are tens and tens of thousands of demons. He actually gives a number of 80,000 demons that are sitting over there screaming impure, 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 and want to cause a lot of problem. And these demons, the only way that they can be killed is only through tshuva. So the Kav HaYashar says like this. He says in chapter 61, somebody who goes after the desires and pleasures of his heart is going to for sure stumble in the sin of wasting seed. Someone who's always after his desires, can't hold himself back. I can't do anything. I'm helpless. Those people, that they're dating a certain girl and they're like, what is it called? Whipped? I can't. I'm just helpless. I can't do anything. So the same idea. Like if you're going after every single desire, you're like, yeah, let me do this. You cannot say no to yourself. That means that you're going to for sure end up sinning in this sin as well. Okay, it says the Kav HaYashar. The Rambam, in Hilchot Deot, says that a person is very much pulled by the nature of his friends. So how your friends are, and then this I hold very, very important. How your friends are is how you turn out to be. And the idea is that if, let's say, you have a bunch of friends who speak about, this sin as if it's a common thing, like, oh no, it's healthy, and they say it as like, oh yeah, I'm going to do with this, and they speak about it in such normal terms. So then your mind, it's like becoming, okay, it's not such a big of a deal. And I'll give you an example like this. And I'll give you an example. This is from people that spoke to me. So there's a certain person that is in a very, very bad work environment. I'm talking not bad work environment like illegal stuff, like stealing, things like that, but illegal in a different manner in sort of immoral, relationships, let's just call it like that. And so when they first come to, they hear about it, they're like, what? That's what they do? That's disgusting. That's crazy. But then they hear this person does it, and then they hear this person does it. So it's still taboo. It's still bad, but it's like, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. It's like, I'll give you an example. When somebody goes and somebody's, is doing some sort of sin, right? Let's say, for example, somebody's going and somebody is, has pre-marital relations with a woman that he should not be having, and so right in the beginning he hears about someone hears that he's doing that. It's like, oh my God, that's terrible. That's a terrible sin. But then he hears, well, I have a friend that also does that. So then it's like, it's not so bad. And then the more that you hear people doing that, it becomes less bad and less bad and less bad. This is the idea when you hang around drug addicts. It's like, at first you come in, you're like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But then you're like, well, this guy's doing this and this guy's doing that. I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to touch it, but, it's bad. And then, and then eventually what happens is they're like, there's a little bit of extra Coke left in the line, and then you're like, all right, whatever, and whatever. And then you just, I'm just tasting. I'm not doing, it's like the line always pushes depending on who you're hanging around with. So it becomes a normal thing.
So just a very technical, but also I'm sure a very source-based question. So is there a difference between, I guess the way a person weighs seed, whether it's, with
a woman and with
individual?
Yeah.
Because I know you could even weigh seed with a wife, technically.
Yes, yes. So we'll speak about that. We'll speak about, we will speak about the whole idea of wasting seed. We'll also, B'ezras Hashem, hopefully speak about with your wife not at the right time, dating a non-Jew, having relations with someone who's considered a zona or a servant, it's like the prostitution. So we'll B'ezras Hashem speak about all that, God willing, hopefully. We'll get to that today. So. There are many people, and by the way, that category, let's say somebody who's sinned with his wife or with a non-Jew or with anybody else, that's all under the category of wasting seed, but a little bit, little bonus bad extra. So the same in a bad way. It's not in a good way. It makes it all that more worse. And not only that, so everything I'm saying right now, it's just a little bit more, that. So the Kabbalists tell us also that somebody who's who falls in this sin, he is constantly getting insults, humiliation because of their immorality. Had they go and they guard their covenant, then this person's going to be treated with honor. So somebody likes to be treated with honor. You want to have respect. You should know that this is one way to get respect from people is by guarding your Brit, by staying holy. And the Chida says also you should know there are some people that say, okay, listen. I'll hang around with girls, I'll hang around with whatever, the opposite gender, and I'll do this thing, and it's not going to happen. I'm going to look at whatever I want to look, it's not going to happen. I could control myself. Says the Chida, he says that you should never say that because even that could come out through the urine. And that also is a big problem and also counts as wasting seed. So people go and they bring themselves to temptation, and then they think because they don't waste seed, granted it's not on the same level, but because they think they're completely okay, and it's not. The Rashi says on Er and Onan in Bereshit, in Parashat Vayeshev, chapter 38, verse 7, says that Er and Onan, they both died. Why did they both die? Because they wasted seed. They didn't want to get, Er was the oldest one. He was married to a woman by the name of Tamar. Tamar was very beautiful. He didn't want to impregnate her, so he would waste seed so he wouldn't get her pregnant. And because of that, God killed him. God took him out. That was his punishment. His brother went and married his sister-in-law, which is what according to the Yibum. And from that, he also wasted seed. And because of that, he also died. So we see here the severity of the sin. Also, it is it's also forbidden for somebody to willfully cause himself to have an erection as well. And if somebody has bad thoughts come to his mind, he has to immediately go and learn Torah. Because where do thoughts come into the mind? Mind that's empty of Torah, of wisdom, is filled up with other things. The mind's got to be filled up with something. If you're not filled up with anything of Torah, then it's going to fill up with whatever's in the environment, and that's something you definitely don't want. Says something here very, very scary. Says the Gemara in Ida, in page 13a. And it's also in the Midrash Hagadol, Parashat Vayeshev. Rabbi Yochanan says like this: somebody who weighs seed deserves the death in the hands of heaven. That's not something like, all right, whatever, I'll do tshuva, I'll do it. This is something that you better do tshuva soon. Death in the hands of heaven is not a light matter. Rabbi Yitzchak says, same Gemara, that it's considered as if he spilled blood. The Zohar says that this is even worse than murder. Why is this worse than murder? Usually when you're murdering, let's say usually you're not murdering. But if someone murders, they're usually murdering somebody else's children. Here you're murdering your own children. These are your own children, your own souls that should be coming onto this world, and you're destroying them. Rav Ashi says also that it's considered as if somebody worshipped Avodah Zarah, idolatry. Where do we know that you're not allowed to have immoral thoughts? There's a pasuk in Dvarim, in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 10. When it says over there, when a camp goes out against your enemies, you shall beware of everything evil. Says the Gemara in Ketuvot, page 46a, that what does it says, that you should guard yourself from all evil? Pinchas ben Yair says that one should not think immoral thoughts during the day, because that's what comes out at night. Guess what's going to happen at night? That's what's going to lead to. Which means is that there are many people, unfortunately, that they have wet dreams, nocturnal emissions. Now, sometimes it could be because of a position and that, but many times it could be because of the thoughts that you're thinking during the day. What are you watching during the day? What are you looking at during the day? What are the thoughts that you're thinking during the day? And this could lead to that sin as well. You know how there's like radio waves like everywhere? There's spiritual energy everywhere. And if somebody goes and sins in this particular sin, he cannot perceive to the spiritual energy. The more one keeps himself purified from this energy, the more from this sin, the more he can perceive the spiritual energy in it. And we know that there is a spiritual flow of blessing that comes to you. Now, every time you sin, you get a sort of klipa, you get a sort of a shell that's preventing the blessing from coming to you. But says the Baal Tanya, says that none of it is as strong as a sin of wasting seed. The transgression of wasting seed blocks does the most damage in this aspect. And says the Zohar something very scary. It says that there's no sin in the world which provokes the anger of God as damage as this sin. Which means there's like a top of the sin, you don't want to be there. And this is one of the worst sins that you can do. The Zohar says further that besides being the most severe, it is very, very, very difficult to do repentance on this. So don't be like, okay, I'll do this and then I'll do the repentance on it. And we're going to speak about repentance, B'ezrat Hashem, next week and how to fix it. But it's something that is extremely, extremely severe, and I cannot emphasize this enough. We know that the generation of the flood, they got punished with what? With warm water, with hot boiling water. Why? Because one of the sins that they did, and what the Zohar says that why was their sin sealed for? Because the sin of wasting seed. They put their seed on the ground because of the warm seed that came out of them went on the ground. That's why the world was punished with warm fluid, measure for measure, the same matter. And the Zohar says also if somebody dies without doing tshuva on this sin, he gets thrown to Gehenna. He gets thrown to hell forever. That's the guy's not coming out. This is like, this is where you're talking about, this is not a sin, oops, okay, I'm sorry, it's not, there is tshuva, we'll speak about it, but this is something that the Zohar speaks very, very strongly against, and the halacha speaks very, very strongly against.
Could you ever do tshuva if you did it a million times?
Yeah, we're going to speak about the B'ezrat Hashem. That's going to be next week. We're going to go through all the details on how to do repentance and tikkunim for this, and how to get all that spiritual blessing back. The Kav Yashar in the 70th chapter says that demons, how do they derive sustenance? From this. So every time that somebody weighs seed, think about it this way. There's demons that are just milking up all that spiritual energy. And then you're just here, my children, feed, feast. And then you're growing this army that they're not long live king, whatever your name is, right? Long live. They're not doing that. They're let's destroy this guy. Let's take him apart and destroy every single blessing that he could possibly have in his life. That's what you're feeding them. Furthermore, it delays the redemption of the Geulah, because we know that the Mashiach is going to come only when all the souls leave the guf, the place where the spiritual body is. And if your soul if your souls are getting wasted over there, then it makes it a very, very difficult to have the Mashiach come, because all these souls are now in the world. Arrogance. Thank you very much, guys. Arrogance goes and brings a person to the sin of wasting seed as well. I want to share with you a few things that the Shnei Luchot HaBrit, Rabbi Yeshayahu Horowitz, says on this matter. So, number one, some of these things are going to be reviews that we spoke about, but it's good to hear it again. Number one, first of all, the exile is going to be prolonged. Number two, this person who does a sin doesn't merit to see the Shekhinah, doesn't merit to see God. Number three, if he doesn't do tshuva, he will not rise in the resurrection of the dead. Number four, he brings death and plague to the world. Not only to him, but to the world. Number five, he prevents if someone is in this sin, you should know that it's very difficult to understand the Torah. It gets blocked. You're not going to be able to understand the secrets of the Torah. And Rabbi Yaakov Abuchatzel says that the Torah is called Brit, meaning that it attaches oneself to somebody who guards his Brit. Somebody also who doesn't for example, look at women, which is something that leads to the sin, will merit that his children will be able to bring out explanations in the Torah. And the more one breaks his temptation, the more Torah he's going to be revealed to them. So you want to have an opening to Torah? This is what you need to fix that. This is going to open it. Number six, and this is something we spoke about, and this is something that many men care about, unfortunately, more than anything else. It brings a person to poverty. You want to be wealthy? Don't do this. This is just, you're going to be bleeding money from this. Number seven, his son will be evildoers. And it says something really crazy over here. From people like him come the heretics, reformers, and the atheists. No one wants children like that. The Gemara Nida, which we said, we're going to do it quickly, said when you do this sin, it's as if you're bringing a flood into this world. You also consider it if you spill blood, which you spoke about, and you serve idols, and you're also liable to death penalty at the hand of heaven. You're also considered like you're excommunicated. Says the Gemara also that the Zohar says that you have no portion in the God of Israel. You understand the seriousness, right? Is it making, a little bit that? Okay, so let's get a little bit more.
Technically, you're eliminating a lot of people that way. From all these things.
Well, they have to do repentance.
You're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. It's 80%, 90% of Jewish men. Even
that waste seed?
Easy.
Well, this is what this class is for, to help them stop it. Just because they do it doesn't mean they can't stop it. Anything that you want, you can do. It's depending how much you want it. It's really depending how much you want it. It really is. Like, somebody who really, really wants to be wealthy and he tries and he's really, really aggressive, he, B'ezrat Hashem, will one day, make it. Somebody who is constantly going and he's constantly, going after women, he'll end up going with women. If you really want it, you could prevent it from happening. I know many people that do not fall in this sin. And I know many people that do fall in this sin at the same aspect.
Yeah, so in religious families, there's no such thing as sex, without making child.
No, there is. We'll speak about that. There is. Yeah. So, but it has to be in a kosher way. But we'll speak about it soon. So the Zohar says like this. He says like this: all the troubles, all the problems that befall a person are caused by this sin. You want to know why you're having problems? This is a good reason why, if you're still doing this. The Zohar says further, I'm going to list you about 5 things now, all from the Zohar. His soul goes to waste. He can never leave hell, which we spoke about it before. He is given over to the hands of the other side, the evil inclination, the Sitra Achra. And the tshuva is of the hardest of all the sins of the Torah. He will not live in the 7th millennium, and the Kriyat Shema that he says will not be heard above. Furthermore, mazal. You know what mazal stands for? Mazal means luck. Everybody wants to have good luck. Especially a lot of the Russians, what do? Everything for luck. Put this and put that, put this. The keys, the salt, the bottles, the empty, this. Everything is for good luck. You want to know what is one of the worst things that you can do for good luck? Is wasting seed. What? Mazal stands for Motzi Zera Levatala. The acronym is for wasting seed. Mazal, Motzi Zera Levatala. That's what it stands for, wasting seed. You want to destroy your mazal, your luck? You want to do that? Then that's what's gonna cause it. The flip side also, somebody who guards his blit, somebody who doesn't fall in the sin, brings Parnassa to the person. It brings sustenance to the person. And that's why it says Kasha mizonotav shel adam ki kriyat yamsuf. It's difficult. The Gemara says in Psachim, page 117, that it's very difficult for somebody to make Parnassa, to make a living, just like it was for crossing the sea. Now, what's the correlation for it? Because we know that what was the sea, the ocean, when the Jews left Egypt? Why did it cross? It says Hayam Ra'a v'Yanos. The sea saw and it split. What did it see? It saw the coffin of Yosef. What was Yosef known for? He was known for guarding his brit, with the whole thing with Potiphar, with Eshet Potiphar. So he was able to overcome it. This is why, if you want to have Parnassa, the same way that the sea split in the merit of Yosef, who guarded his Brit, the same way you will merit to have Parnassa in the merit of guarding your Brit. Furthermore, the Sefer Brit says that not only is it going to be a problem for his Parnassa, but he will not be successful in all his endeavors. Everything is going to fail. Everything is going to cause problems. You know, there's some people that everything they try, flat, falling. No one knows why. He says, I don't understand. I went to college, I did all these things, I'm going the right way, I'm doing this, and I'm still not successful. So this could be a very big reason why. The Rav Nachman Blessev says also like this. It says that it's, besides having a very hard time earning a living, this, by the way, speaks to everybody, I think the strongest. Money. Everybody understands. Money talks. It says when this knows, if you think about it, every time you waste it, imagine you lose like 20 grand out of your bank. It's just like, cha-ching, it goes out. Right? It's going to make you stop. Okay, so let's say you're a multi-billionaire, so just add another zero every time, right? Comparable percentage-wise. So people will say, no, I can't do it, I can't stop, it's very difficult for me. Imagine every time you do that, 20 grand just goes out, and you could go in the negative. So everything that you work, and you know people do that. People work, they should have enough that they should be able to save, but for some reason the saving is not there. Like, where is the saving going? Because it could be in their negative. Every time that they're making extra, they're still paying up, from the default from the withdrawals that they placed earlier. And even if one does earn money, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be through bitterness, through poverty, it's going to be very, not something that's easy. The Chafetz Chaim says, and this is something that I speak to people, that people postpone marriage. Why do they postpone marriage? They met a girl, a good girl, a nice kosher girl, and they don't want to get married. Why? Because of Parnassa, no money. So he says, their benefits, to preserving, their money is going to be offset, because we know that evidently what's going to happen, you're going to end up falling into sin. And what's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to more problems and more losing money. So you think that you're saving money by not getting married yet, but in essence you're really losing the money. And so your gain are going to be offset by your loss. Rav Chaim Pelagi says like this. He says that the Torah, that if somebody goes and he guards his Brit and guards the Torah, then even if his mazal, if his luck says he's not supposed to have money, he's not going to have anything good, these two merits can override the mazal, which means that you have an ability to override your luck and what you're supposed to be. A while ago in Israel, there was a very dry winter. And all of a sudden in the spring, when it never rains, it started raining. So Rav Aryan Leib Steinman said that most probably, why this blessing came in is because there was somebody who got tested in this matter and he overcame it. Because it could bring blessing not only for you, but for everybody else as well. This also prevents one's children from going astray. There's a few stories in Gemara and Kiddushin that a woman asked Reb Chanina Bar Papa, it's in Kiddushin page 48, that she says she wanted her to make a sin with him. And he said something, and all of a sudden he was instantly covered with boils. So she said something through witchcraft, and he cleared him. So he ran and he hid in a certain bathhouse. So this bathhouse was known, they had very, very strong, back then the bathhouses were, populated by demons. And there were two demons over there. And he went in, untouched, and he left untouched. So the Chachamim, they said over to him, says, how did you go into there? We know everybody who goes in there, even two people go in there, they get harmed. How did you go in there and not get harmed? He said, maybe, they told him, maybe you are tempted to do a sexual sin, and you overcame it. And the Gemara says that if somebody is tempted to sin and overcomes it, a miracle is done for him. A miracle is done for him. There's another story the Gemara brings down that a woman tempted Rabbi Tzadok to sin. And he says, I'm sorry, I'm too hungry, I'm too weak, I can't eat. So she says, listen, I only have an impure animal that I could give you to eat. She says, this is what I deserve, says Rav Tzadok. So she turned on the oven to put the food inside, and when she turned on the oven, Rav Tzadok jumped in the oven. And she's like, now it's not an oven. Back then it was like, big oven. So she's like, what's the meaning of this? Why are you jumping in the oven? So she says, listen, this is just going to be a taste of what I'm going to be getting after I do this sin. Might as well get the taste now. So she saw how serious he was. She said, she left him alone. Rav Kahana was once selling women's baskets, and a woman, tried to get him to sin. So he says, I'm sorry, I can't sin now. I have to, I got to get into something more comfortable. He went up to the roof and he jumped off the roof. Eliyahu had to run and go like fly for who knows how long and save him. So he says, Eliyahu says to him, you made me travel a long distance just to save you. So Rav Kahana says, what am I supposed to do? My poverty, brought me to this profession. So Eliyahu gave him enough money so he could quit his job and he doesn't have to get into that profession anymore. The Stipler says, Rav Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky says that somebody who is overcome by this type of sin, just like the sin is great, so too the overcoming of it is also great. and it's very, difficult to understand a certain concept, which I would like to clarify, that, it says that in Kabbalah, if somebody is wasting seed and doing all the sins, then his Torah and his mitzvot and everything that he does gets snatched away from the evil inclination. So the Stipler clarifies it like this, and he says that what happens is that if somebody goes and if somebody does a certain sin, there's a certain flow of energy that comes in. And that flow of energy inspires you to do more and be better. This is not a flow of energy only for mitzvot. It could also help in your worldly pursuits. So when you do a mitzvah, it gives you more energy, more ability to do more mitzvot, and also to be more successful in life in general. However, when somebody is involved in this sin, this energy is snatched away. This energy is taken away. So all the good that he does, the energy that he should be getting, he doesn't get anymore. It goes to the other side. However, the good deeds, the mitzvah, the Torah mitzvah, is still a credit to him, says a Stipler. And however, when a person does tshuva, he gets that spiritual energy back. And the Stipler continues, and he says, for somebody who gets tested in this, and he overcomes his passion, then all those sparks that the tumah that he created, he rectifies it through that way as well, by preventing that from sinning it in it again. We know also there's a lot of people nowadays and age very depressed, sad. One of the things that causes it is this sin, and besides that, and it's sort of like it works for itself, because when you're sad and sin, it also causes you to do more sins of these type of sexual wasting seed sin also causes it. So sadness causes you to do that, and it also brings us in. So it's like a continuous cycle. And there's a play on word that Esav Mazriya Zera in Genesis chapter 1 verse 11. What you could really say that is Etzev Mazriya Zera. Sadness brings out the seed. Sadness makes a person sin of that. So one of the things that a person, and again, there are certain people that are clinically depressed and clinically sad, and they need to be helped in a clinical manner as well. But for many people, if they fix this, their happiness in life goes up. And if you think about it, for the little pleasure, for the momentary pleasure that you're doing here, you're losing this world and the next. If this is not something that I say and I mean it, but I'm saying it. So if you can understand what I'm saying, if you're sinning, sin smart. Don't sin something stupid. Don't be like, okay, if a guy says, okay, you could steal this candy bar, but then you're going to have to pay $1 billion in fines. Be like, that's a stupid thing to do, no matter how much you want that candy bar. If he says, this candy bar you steal, you're going to have to pay $1. So I'm like, okay, you steal that, you get $1. I'm not saying that you should sin smart and you should sin that, but don't sin dumb. Don't do things that is going to cause you so much problems in life for the momentary pleasure that you gain. And everybody, I've spoken to so many people about this. What do they tell me? After they do this sin, they're not like, awesome, high five. They feel like 2 cents. They feel like a piece of dirt. They feel like, I can't, disgusting from it. So you're losing this world and you're losing the next world as well. Also, somebody who guards, his covenant, it also protects him from receiving protection while he's traveling. It also takes away the laziness and the sadness that he has. Generally, when someone does a sin, it's very difficult to rectify the sins. There's many nuances to the mitzvot and the sins. So it's very difficult to get everything. But when somebody goes and prevents himself from sinning in this particular sin of wasting seed, he rectifies all the other mitzvot, all the other sins as well. So it becomes, in that manner, it becomes very strong as well. Okay, so now there's 3 things that I want to speak about. There are 3 things that drive God's spirit away from the world. So, and it's called something, nishgaz, which means is if somebody has relations, and this is the question that you were asking earlier. So if somebody has relations with a woman, a nidah. A nidah is a woman on her menstrual cycle. If somebody has, without her going to the mikvah, even if somebody, so a nidah is if somebody has relations with a woman, even if she's after her menstrual cycle, but she still didn't go into the mikvah, she's considered sinning with a nidah. And we're going to soon see there's going to be 4 categories, and we're going to speak about them. Number 2 is a shifcha, a woman servant in the house. Then there is a goya, which is a Gentile woman, somebody who has relations with a Gentile woman, and then ozana, somebody who has relations with a prostitute. Okay, so there are 3 types of people, of men, that drive the Shekhinah away from the world. Number 1 is somebody who has relations with a woman while she's in a state of impurity, and This is the Zohar, by the way. The Zohar says that there is no sin, there's no impurity as great as the woman's impurity when she's a nidah. Which means is, I think I've said this story here before, that one time I was sitting with my wife and we were eating in a restaurant, and I overheard someone two tables down speaking. It was two women. They were speaking. One woman. I said this story already before. You guys heard this? Yeah. I said this. So there's two, and one woman was getting married. It's not. I don't like to eavesdrop. I don't care. I really don't want to. But you sit in certain places in Brooklyn. You know how Brooklyn women. They speak the whole restaurant hears what they're saying. Everybody knows exactly that. So one was saying to the other one. She was getting married. She's like, I'll do stuff, but mikvah, I'm not doing that stuff. That's ridiculous. Why I have to dip in water? Like, why I have to dip in water? And my wife saw me. She's like, no, don't say anything. And then they keep on going, and I'm like, she already saw. Like, I was like, I was gonna start. I was literally gonna say something, and she was like, this is not your place. You can't just go to a random person and start telling them why. I'm like, well, why not? Maybe I should. Maybe I should say that. But because why are they saying that? They're saying that because they don't know the seriousness of it. If they know the seriousness of it, you think they wouldn't do it? You think they wouldn't go? What's so hard to go to the mikvah? It's all of a sudden you're taking something that is the biggest sin to the biggest mitzvah. You're doing it. You're transferring something for what? For going into a nice, 5-star resort. They have the mikvahs over here for women. It's beautiful over here. Marble floors, everything clean, spick and span. You're going over there. It's no problem, and you're going and sitting over there. That's number one. So besides that, there's also the children that this comes out. It comes very, very impure. It's defiled. So the number two is somebody who has. This is a second category. Second category is somebody who removes God's presence from the world. Is somebody who has relations with a non-Jewish woman. What's the problem with this? So first of all, he has no share in the God of Israel unless he constantly repents. This is a severe, severe sin. People don't even understand. Why people don't understand? Because people don't even think about the severity of it. He has, first of all, no share in the God of Israel unless he repents. We know how bad it was when the daughters of Moab went and they sinned with the tribe of Shimon and part of the tribe of Wen. What happened? 24,000 of the Jewish people of Israel died from this sin. They died from this sin because they had relations with the other side. The non-Jewish woman. This is something of so much, it brings so much problems to it. And furthermore, I'm going to read to you some things that, what it says in Chokli Israel. It says that what happens is, when a person does this type of sin, it causes many, many other sins. First of all, there are some people that when they do the sin, they want to be uncircumcised, so that they can find favor in the woman's eye. They can be, I'm just like you. So in that aspect, that's already like idolatry in your heart. And then he's on forbidden relations that he's doing with this woman. And besides that, all the bloodshed that he's causing and all the destruction of his souls, because if a man marries or has relations with a non-Jewish woman, those children are not Jewish. That's it. He cuts himself off. The end of the line. He's done. There's nothing that you can say that, the severity of this sin. Besides the fact that he causes the length of the exile, these type of people cause tremendous problems to the Jewish nation. Tremendous problems. They cause so many bad things to happen. And why do people do it? Oh, I fell in love. I can't. I love her. She makes me breakfast, Rabbi. You don't understand. She makes me breakfast. I'm like, you idiot! You fool! You know that you have a Jewish woman, a soulmate that's sitting there and waiting for you, and you're here thinking that you're getting breakfast. You think that this type of thing is going to last? These types of relationships do not last and do not become a blessing. Nowadays and age, what's the divorce rate? 60%, 70%, 80%, some people 150% because they married more than once. Right? You have people divorcing. You need every single siyata dishmaya, every single amount of luck that you have that are relationships to succeed. You think you're going to get luck over here? Not only that, even if you don't end up marrying her, there's some people, tell me the dumbest things I need to practice. Like, practice for what? What do you need to practice for? That's the most idiotic thing. You want a woman that practices also? Is that what you want? So they go and they say the dumbest things, and what it's going to bring them so much problems later on in life. So many problems. I could promise you this, and I don't use those words easily. Nothing good will come out of it. Nothing good will come out of it. Only problems, only troubles, no Parnassa, no happiness, no luck with the kids. Why is it worth it? You think, the problem is that people fall in love. there's a guy that I know that he's a guy. It's very interesting. He's not Jewish, and he's dating a Jewish girl. And I keep on telling him, I'm like, it's very odd because he comes to my classes, and he's not, he's more interested in Judaism than her. And so he keeps on. I'm like, break it off. You're not allowed to be with her. I mean, you guys know me already. I'm not going to be like, thank you for coming to my class, and I really appreciate it. I'm like, no, and I tell them, I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you straight out because I care, not because I don't care about you liking me. I care about you, and I care about her. And you're doing something very bad. What did he tell me? No, but I love her. You'll love somebody else. I love her. As if we know what love is. As if you could actually, you don't know you love somebody until you're married to them for like 45 years. And then you can know what actual love is. But and I tell this person, it's a very big sin. You don't understand. Is it really worth it? This world, you're not going to have success. The next world, you're also not going to have success. And even if you say, okay, I know people that are married to non-Jews and they're very happy. Really? Go see. See what his, prescriptions are. See how much he's actually really happy in life. See how much success he has in life with his children. I speak to people. I know these things. I know what's going on over here. I haven't found one person who says and I know, and it's a very big problem in certain communities, and especially in these communities, there are people that they fall into this. To the extent, I'll tell you how bad it is, that the parents don't even care. They're like, okay, whatever, they gave up already. You know why usually this happens? Usually this happens because there's a sibling that marries into that, or there's another family member. Remember we spoke about the more that you hear about something, the more okay it becomes? So the more that you hear about this thing, it also becomes okay. And it becomes okay. And this is a big problem, not only for people who have relationships that are with non-Jewish women, but people who go on vacation and think it's okay to do whatever they want with God is not in this zip code. It's okay. God doesn't come to these places. And it's a very, very severe sin, and it causes only problems in life. Only problems in life. And why would you do that? And why would you do that? You think for a second that if, let's say, God forbid, somebody's in one of these type of relationships, and he's going to go and says, listen, I know God doesn't want me to be in this relationship. I'll leave this relationship. You think God's going to be like, well, now, I'm going to cause a lot of problems in your life because you listen to me? No, you're listening to God. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You think that God's not going to send you somebody much better? In all aspects. For you, of course he will. Because you have that. This is something that you have, and this is something that's on your fingertips. And people don't understand this. This is also when people go and they date before they're married. I'm talking about date really young. You're 18, 19, 20, you're not ready to get married. What are you dating for? What are you doing that? It only comes in sins. It only results in problems, in tribulations, in issues. You're not successful in whatever you do. People, you can tell people that have, you see people in class, you can tell, I speak to men and I speak to women. I know when there's the opposite gender is no one's texting and all of a sudden it's giggling like a girl. I'm like, dude, come on, you're 6'5", 700 pounds. What are you giggling about? And they're they become enveloped in this thing, and the mind stops working. You don't think with this. And this is something very important with this particular sin. With this particular sin, with wasting seed in all aspects of it, you don't think with your mind. You don't. The mind goes on vacation, and you think with other things, and it causes so many problems into this world. Now, by the way, you should think of it. You should understand this. It's not only problems to you; it's problems to also your friends, your neighbors, and everything else like that. And this is very, very important. If anybody knows anybody who is in these situations, there are people that are addicted to wasting seed. You have to go and you have to help them out. You have to, let them read books about it, send them classes on it, send them links on it. There are people that have serious problems with these things. I can't even say there are people that have problems that not once, not multiple times a day that they literally, the Yetzer Hara is, and that's it. They're sucked into it. They're not them anymore. They can't live life. And it's a very, very serious problem. And it's a very serious problem, and I can't emphasize it. I can't emphasize it enough. I'll tell you the importance of it. That when somebody goes and somebody watches himself from wasting seed, it's considered as if he kept the entire Torah. You understand what it is? There's, how there's shortcuts. You could do something and be like, okay, listen, the professor, you come in there, you're taking, physics, nuclear physics, something like ridiculous hard. Be like, okay, you write your name, I'll give you 20 points. All right, so it's an easy thing, you can write your name. I'm not saying this is an easy thing to overcome, but look at all the bonus points that come with it. The first and more, if somebody guards his Brit, if somebody prevents himself from doing this sin, this is the sin of wasting seed in all aspects. The Shekhinah is always with him. You have always God with you. Does anybody not want that? Be like, God just always with you. After death, the body does not decay for somebody who guards himself from wasting seed. And furthermore, that God himself heals this person spiritually and physically for somebody who guards his Brit. And he'll have holy children who is also careful in this manner. Can I bother you for some water, please? Thank you. There's an angel. The Zohar says like this. There's a certain angel that in the entrance to hell, he's standing there with thousands and thousands of afflicting angels. Thank you, guys. Thousands and thousands of afflicting angels. But somebody who guards his Brit, he has like a shield. He has an invisible shield, like no one can touch him. He has protection. And furthermore, Avraham Avinu saves people from hell that protect themselves with these things. By the way, incidentally, if somebody goes and sins with a non-Jewish woman, I'm not talking about relationship, just even one time, and doesn't do tshuva, Avraham Avinu doesn't see that as somebody who has a Brit Milah. It counts as if he doesn't have it. It doesn't save him from hell. So, before coming from Mashiach, we gave a lot of classes on Mashiach. It says that there's going to be tremendous destruction that comes into the world. One, you want to know how to be saved? Here's how to be saved. One, guard yourself from wasting seed. This says the Tikkun Zohar. It also protects you from harm and from enemies, this thing. The evil eye also does not have any control over somebody whose eyes, he guards his eyes. Somebody who guards his Brit is always in a state of happiness. It's always in a state of happiness, which is something that people pay so much money nowadays just to get a little bit of happiness. In pill form, in drug form, and whatever it is, the vacations, they do just to get happiness. Here's a simple way to do it. Let's speak about some practical reasons. Some physical reasons. I'm going to have to hurry this up because we're getting a little bit late. I'll give you some practical reasons of what could be to prevent yourself from wasting seed. This affects, if someone wastes seed, it affects somebody physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. How does it do that? It makes you sad, depressed, angry, easily agitated, nervous, unable to concentrate. However, on the flip side, somebody who guards it, he's emotionally stable, he is confident, he has happiness, he feels alive, he's able to concentrate, he's free from fears. Some people, they're scared of everything. Someone sneezes, they're like, oh no, I just got, who knows what. And they're also, the spiritual connection comes much stronger. People who don't, on the flip side, who don't do that, they get tired very easily. They're always tired, always very, very exhausted, tired, always sleeping. They have bad breath. The hair and the teeth fall out easily, and the hair on one legs and one armpit become thick. Now, I'm not saying you look at somebody who has hairy legs and armpit and be like, well, this guy's a pervert. You can't, or he has bad breath. I'm saying this is something that could lead to it. It doesn't mean that everybody who has it has this situation. So, also, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that when someone indulges in this sin, his mind becomes damaged. He decreases in knowledge, he has confusion, his level of his functioning is lowered, and he's even like a little bit of insanity, depending on the level that he does it. It also furthermore causes a loss of memory. So it causes, one of the reasons that it affects the brain a lot is because it originates in the brain. The sperm originates in the seed, at least the seed originates in the brain and goes down the 18th vertebrae, and then it goes out that way. Also, somebody who does not guard his Brit, who has a very, very hard time on finding a wife. And even if they do find a wife, the relationship is going to be very shaky. This is even more so if somebody has marital relationships premaritally. So if they have relationships before they're married, this also makes it very, very difficult to have the relationships when you do find a wife. And there are many people that think, okay, when I get married, it's not going to be a problem. I speak to many married people that they still have this problem. If you don't fix it when you're single, what makes you think that you're going to fix it when you're married? And who wants the disgustingness of it? You have a wife sitting in the next room, and you're doing this disgusting act. And these people, not because they want to do it, they're not controlled by their desires anymore. It's overcoming for them. You have to stop it now. It's not something that you can say, I'll stop it then, I'll be able to do it. If you don't stop it now, you're going to be one of those sickos that always do it. The perverts that cannot hold themselves back and cannot say no. It sounds like it's very difficult, and it is very difficult to do it. But the more that you hold yourself back from doing it, the easier that it becomes. And granted, you'll always have, the more that you guard your eyes, and this is really what we're going to speak about, in next week, B'ezrat Hashem. The more that you guard your eyes, the more that you're able to do that, the more that you'll be able to prevent these sins from happening. But furthermore, it says something very interesting, that when you hold yourself back from doing it, it makes it easier on everybody else as well. Just that little tiny bit. So you had a lot of big rabbis and righteous people, even not rabbis, that held themselves back from the sin, which means it makes it more easier for you to overcome it, especially in now day and age. So even though we're living in a day and age which is very, very hard to overcome this sin. It has a lot of temptation, it has a lot of things, but you have the ability to overcome it because of your balancing on all the things that they did, in the previous generation. There's another thing that we mentioned. We said 3 things are going to prevent the Shekhinah, God's presence, from coming into this world. So one of them we said was nidah, having relations with a woman in her state of impurity when she didn't go to the mikvah. Number 2, we said having relations with a non-Jewish woman. Number 3 is somebody who purposely prevents the seed from coming into fruition. So generally, this means like an abortion. Killing an unborn child. So these are 3 serious sins. Yes.
What about let's say people are married, right? But not every single time you engage in their relations is gonna be for
a child, right? So that's okay. That's okay as long as you do it in purity. That is okay. And someone spoke about the idea of birth control, right? Because is there a way to? So first of all, if you're doing it in a kosher manner, it's completely okay. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to do it. But it has to be in a kosher manner, which means is with your wife, while she's in a state of purity, and after she went to the mikvah. However, what about, let's say, somebody who's wants...
But that story they told us, about the guy who was married, I forgot their names, but, essentially he... the seed went on the floor, but they were married, right? So... Isn't it the same thing?
No, so that was a wasting of the seed. It has to be when it's not wasted, which means is that it doesn't go on the floor. It doesn't go anywhere else except where it's supposed to go. So that is a problem. If I think what you're thinking about, there's birth control. You have to speak to your local Orthodox rabbis. But condoms are not allowed. There are different versions of it, but you have to speak to your rabbi, and the rabbi could guide you. What's the appropriate thing that you should do, and then when you can do it, when you can't do it, and then it's completely okay. And then even though you're not bringing a child, but being that it was in holiness, it's considered in holiness. So those souls do not turn mazikim, do not turn damages. They have their tikkun the way that they're supposed to have it. So this is extremely, extremely important. There's something I did forget to mention. Is that somebody who has relations with a non-Jew, you know what they come back as a reincarnation in? They come reincarnation as a dog. And not like, oh, cute, little Fluffy is here, or, Mikey is here. You come back as a dog 7 to 9 times if you don't do tshuva. And it's a very, very, very difficult thing for a soul to come back as everything else but a human. It's very, very painful. So, it is something that is imperative for anybody who dealt in any of these sins, even if it's it's not just, but even just the wasting seed, it's still something that you have to do tshuva in it. You cannot say, okay, stop. And the B'ezrat Hashem will speak about it, also, in more depth, B'ezrat Hashem on next week. Any questions? No questions? Everything was clear? Yeah.
Or if you do 2 things at the same time, one of the 2 bad things you mentioned.
So
2 times is worse.
So yeah, if let's say somebody it's wasting seed with a non-Jew, so it's just it's just all that more worse of the sins. But I can't emphasize this enough. This is one of the worst sins that you could do in the Torah. This is literally the worst thing that you could possibly do. The tshuva, it just brings bad things upon you. You should do whatever it takes to prevent yourself from doing these sins. It's something that's only going to cause you problems. Who wants to be on a title that's going to be in hell, never going to leave? You're not going to even have success in this world. So you lose this world and the next world. This is something that's so important that people don't understand the severity in it. If you would understand the severity in it, you would not do it. You not do it. It's just not worth it. It doesn't pay out well. Furthermore, which we spoke about this idea before, you have a certain amount of pleasure that you're going to get in every aspect of your life, right? There's meters of pleasure. You have a meter of how much, let's say, sexual pleasure that you'll get. If you use this pleasure illegally, you're just stealing from yourself in the future. So imagine what it is. If somebody goes and has relations before they get married, especially if they have relations with a non-Jew, or even if it's with a Jew, it doesn't matter. It's before you married. What you're doing is you're really stealing everything from your future self and from your future spouse. So you're building yourself up to have a bad marriage ready to begin with. This is something that a person has to do tshuva right away. And I can't say this enough. If somebody's in a relationship, with, Jewish, not Jewish, doesn't matter what it is, and they're not shomer negia, they're touching, and it leads to sin, break it up. Either break it up or get married. That's your choices right now. You cannot. There's no point of it. It's only going to bring you bad things to your life. It is something that you have to be so careful about. This thing is like the worst of the worst. What the Zohar says about these things is crazy, and you don't want to put yourself into that. You want to be happy. You don't want to be depressed. You want to be wealthy. You don't want to be poor. There's so many things that you want to have going for you. This is a major obstacle in everything in your life. Everything in your life could just fall into play because of this. Is that clear? Am I clear on how important it is? Yeah, it doesn't make 100% sense that this is one of the worst things that you can possibly do. It's good. So B'ezrat Hashem, this is not only important, by the way, for everyone here to listen to it, but this is important. There are many people that, I don't ordinarily say, send my classes out everywhere, and it doesn't have to be my classes. But this particular topic, it's not spoken about enough, and whether it's just send it out as many people as you think that can possibly be useful for it could be beneficial. And by the way, this is not only for men. I was originally thinking about naming the class men only. Why? Because then women are going to listen to it. Because men only, women don't listen. If you say women only, men will be like, all right, fine, whatever, I'm not going to listen to it. But if you say men only, you'll be like, what is he talking about? You know what? But why is it important also for women? Because women can lead to these sins, especially if you're in a relationship. They lead to that. If they dress immodestly, what happens? If they walk in the street immodestly, and men start having thoughts, and then it leads to one thing, leads to another. So this is important both for men and for women. I know it's a mature class, and I hope that this was presented in a right way, that you could understand it, and you could take the seriousness and severity of it. And please, I cannot emphasize this enough. Try your hardest. Some tips that maybe I'll give you now before next week is, it's very, I understand you can say never do it again. And, somebody who's been doing it since, who knows what age, it's very difficult to overcome. So a very easy trick to do it is you say, listen, today is Tuesday, 1 week. 1 week you could do. 1 week is very doable. So you say 1 week. When the time 1 week comes by, you'll be like, 5 more days. You're able to always push it off. When you push off a sin, it makes it a little bit more easier, more bearable to do it. The more that you overcome it, the easier that it's going to come. And if God forbid someone falls, get up right away and stop right then and there. Any questions? Any things that we have to emphasize more about? Yeah.
Sorry. You brought it up. I was always kind of curious about Shomer negia, right? So
yeah.
And also in relation to nidah. So I know, you're not supposed to touch the opposite sex at all, not even holding hands. Is it because it might lead to sin, or if it does not lead to sin?
It doesn't matter. It's even if it's not going to lead to sin, you're still not allowed to do it. Yeah. But the idea was as a precaution.
And if you're just dating.
Yeah. There's nothing that it's never. You ever realize it? It's never going to be like a guy never goes and looks at a girl and be like, you know what I want to do? I want to hold her hand. No guy ever be like, that's all I want to do. It's just, I just want to just hold her hand. Because it never...
I'm saying when you're married and whatever,
even though, yeah.
And to give her a hug.
Right.
If it's 100% not going to lead to sin.
Still 100% not allowed.
Not allowed.
And it's very, very severe when you're married and, and she's in nidah. Very, very severe. You have to stay far.
A hug?
Far, even a hug, yeah. Even a hug. Even a high five. What?
Every single friend I have a girl, I always hug them to say hi.
You always what?
I hug them as a hi.
So that, you got to stop that. First of all, it's a not Jewish thing, because you don't it's very weird, because how would you want your wife to do that to all your friends? It's weird. You don't want that. It's not. I mean, nowadays it's normal because you see it on TV, you see it even in the movie, and it's normal. But it's a very odd thing. Why you don't go to your friend? Well, some Gorskis actually do kiss, their friend. But you don't usually go. You meet somebody, you can be like, hey, buddy, here, come here. Sorry. And be like, oh, I haven't seen you in a week. It's an odd thing. We don't do that. If you have your beautiful wife is when you find your beautiful wife and you're getting there, and all of a sudden, you come in and it's like her and 20 of your friends. What is she going to go around and be like, hey Charlie, 1 second, my dear husband, I have to go first. And then you go all those things. And okay, so I'm saying it like that, but the same idea, you're hugging, a girl over here, you're hugging someone else's wife. future wife, maybe. It's something that doesn't belong to you. Not that a woman is an object that belongs to somebody, but you're delving into something that doesn't touch it. And furthermore, men, we're all men here. Thinking it's not going to be like you hug a woman. It's not going to be like, oh, you don't have any bad thoughts ever because from it. It's always a problem and always leads to something else. If nothing but a thought is already a problem in itself, but it's a problem in itself anyways. You should definitely stop that. Always tell them if they come in for the hug, be like, oh, I'm sorry, I just got a cold or something, and they go, like spit in their face, or have really bad breath, that everyone wants to stay away from. Any other questions? Any other aspects that I went very fast? I know I wanted to cover a lot of ground today. I know we didn't have enough time. So reincarnation. If somebody has relations with a non-Jew, comes back as a dog. As a dog.
Jewish folk can come in.
Yeah, come back as a dog. If they don't do tshuva.
So you're going to talk about tshuva next time?
So next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to speak about how to overcome it. Is it possible to? What are you supposed to do? That is going to be the topic of B'ezrat Hashem of next thing. There's in relationships to non-Jews, what the Zohar speaks about, it's so crazy, the hell that a person has to go through. I don't even want to say some of the things that he says, that it brings it down, how serious and how crazy those things are. But it's a very big problem nowadays. It's unfortunate. You have people that they don't think it's a problem. What's the big deal? I'm going to convert her maybe one day, possibly after I become Christian. It's like, because the woman has much more say on what's going to be than a guy could be like, listen, I'm going to convert her. She's going to become a Jew. She's going to be like that. And before you know it, he's in church. He's like, listen, the guy was Jewish also over here. I'm technically a Jewish religion. I'm telling you, people convince themselves, hey, shalom bayit. Listen, what am I supposed to do? It's my wife. I can't I have to make her happy. So they do all the worst sins in the world. Lose this world, lose the next world. It's a lose situation. There's not one gain in anything of that. Not even if you could say, okay, I'm having fun. Because all you're doing is you're taking away the fun that you're going to have with your wife. And even this is somebody's by themselves and they waste seed, you're just taking away all the pleasure that you're going to have with B'ezrat Hashem when you get married. And when you have, or even if you're married already, you're just making it a lot more difficult and worse for your spouse. Good? Everybody good? Hazak Baruch B'ezrat Hashem, and we have the power to overcome this and help others as well. Hazak Baruch.